Hello, everyone. Hi. How are you guys doing today? This is a weird thing we're doing today, so this is different. Hi, Buffy people. We're not doing a reaction episode today. We're doing a rewatch. Not something I'm probably gonna do often, but I decided I wanted to do this, and I asked people, and people said yes, go for it. So this is going to be a rewatch of the episode Restless, the Restless Rewatch, if you will, which is the finale for Buffy season 4, which I just went through. And at the time of recording the YouTube version of that reaction has already gone live, so I've seen people's comments and stuff, and it was a good time, actually. Nobody really spoiled anything for me. What people said to me instead was, "Hey, good job." People were like, "Hey, you were clocking and paying attention to just about the amount of stuff that you are going to be capable of catching on a first watch." And I was like, "You know what? Thank you. That's very nice of you." I was worried that people were gonna be like, "I can't believe you missed something that was completely impossible to get." It's like, no, people were like, that was good. Good job. So that made me feel a little bit better. Let me say right away, I am not sure if this is going to be like an actual video that's going to go up on YouTube, or if this is just going to be a patron special, because it could be either. And it's really just going to come down to the editing. So if I can edit this down, because this is different, the way this is going to go is I am going to record myself just rewatching the episode, and I am just going to pause and talk, and then I'm gonna resume. Like, that's something that I couldn't do the first time I was recording this because I was doing a reaction. But I often enjoy more the ability to just pause, stop, talk, process information, and then resume. And that's what we're going to be doing today. That's actually something I really wanted to do immediately after I finished the episode. I was like, I want to do that. So I asked people on Patreon, and the general consensus was not only should you be rewatching the episode, but also rewatch it later as well. Right? Just like you can do a rewatch now, also rewatch it later, and also maybe rewatch it a third time. Someone on YouTube told me you should be maybe rewatching this episode after season 5 and after season 7, right? Like after the show's over, watch it again. I might do that. I might just rewatch this episode again after season 5 and again after season 7, after we're done with the show. So that could be fun. Let me know what you think about that. But yeah, we're gonna be rewatching this episode now. And I will say that I am very much aware that there's a lot of things about this episode that I'm probably not going to get, because I can tell that there's a lot of things that this episode is setting up for the future. So what we can do is just try to pick it apart and try to decipher what things mean. But there's a lot that is going to be impossible for us to get until we get to that point where new information is revealed. Yeah, this is just gonna be a rewatch. That's just gonna be fun. Whatever I miss, I'm gonna miss, and that's fine. I'm just gonna do this because I think it's really good for me. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. Playing detective, that's what I call it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing. I don't know if this is gonna be on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hi. If you're on Patreon, then thank you for being on Patreon. This is mostly for you. Yeah, let's rewatch this episode. This is gonna be a little bit jankier because I just straight up have this window on my editing software. Not editing, sorry, recording software, OBS. And it should be recording the episode as I watch it. And then I'm just going to pause and talk and then resume. So that's not something I usually do for my usual recording or my usual editing. So this is different. Okay. Sure. Maybe we'll begin. I should place myself like here. Maybe. Yeah, that gives you a better view. Hopefully the audio recording and everything is going to be fine. I'm really hoping for that. All right. I was just making sure that the actual capture for the episode is being recorded, because OBS can be a little bit janky sometimes, but I think it's fine. Whatever. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Something about this that I didn't talk originally because I didn't fully get it, but when I was editing the episode, I did get it. Actually, I'm going to go back immediately. The episode hasn't started yet, and I want to go back because let me grasp. I could be taking notes. What if I take notes? I'm gonna open Notepad on my computer. You can't see it, but I'm gonna be taking notes. Could I add this to OBS as well? I mean, I can do everything on OBS. Do I want to, though? That's the better question. Yeah, fuck it. Just so you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, here I have a small notepad where I'm typing shit. Let's continue with the episode. So this is something that I didn't really realize as I was watching the episode the first time. Still realized it when I was editing the episode. It goes to rip Xander's heart, sucks like Willow's essence, like it turns her into like a decrepit like mummy. For Giles, which was the most fucked up, it was like started like slicing his head, and he was going for the mind, right, the brain. Now, each of those things is clearly indicative of each character. Spirit and heart is kind of don't care about this. But, okay, Willow being spirit and Xander being heart, that's interesting. Because grabbing spirit and heart and making that some kind of distinction between the two is a little bit vague, because when you say heart, you can kind of interchange it with spirit unless you mean it in a literal sense. But that is not what we're doing here. She literally did rip Xander's heart out, but that's not what the card is supposed to be, because there's really no significance to the heart unless we're talking about it in a more vague metaphorical sense. And if we do that, then there is definitely an overlap between heart and spirit. What we could say is that spirit is something more about like being free, being authentic, I suppose, being authentic, kind of like a free spirit. And it would certainly go well with Willow's like arc this season of being a lesbian or being bisexual. We still don't have full clarity on that, and it really honestly doesn't matter. The specific label doesn't matter, but it is that that storyline could definitely kind of line with that concept. Xander being the heart could line up with Xander being kind of the emotional core of the group, because Xander is a more emotional dude for both the positives and negatives. Like all of the negatives about Xander is about him being too emotional and acting on an impulse, and like that's the thing about Xander, is that Xander is an emotional person, and I'm telling you right now, right at the beginning, we're going to be talking about a lot about Xander this episode, right? This entire video is going to be a lot about Xander, because I actually checked when I was editing the episode, and all 4 characters do get like a sequence. Xander's sequence is the longest. Giles' sequence is the shortest. Buffy's sequence is weirdly divided into 2, because one of them is about Buffy and, Buffy as a person, and the other half is about like, oh, we have to fix the episodic problem of the first layer. So I think that out of the 4, Xander is the one that actually has the most like meat put into it. So I think we're going to be talking about Xander a lot here. So yeah, we'll get into that whenever we get into that. Let's continue with the episode. But I just want to point out that there's like a weird overlap between spirit and heart. So we'll see if I can like pull those 2 apart from each other as I watch the episode. It's just a deep break. I don't think this is a part of the episode that necessarily matters too much. It's always cool to blackmail the government if you can do it. He's an anarchist, remember?
Well, you guys have fun tonight. It was very nice.
It's gonna be a fun night.
You finally.
Right, like the little spoiler of like you're gonna see Principal Snyder today. Oh, dude, while I watch this episode, there might be a chance that I'm just gonna pause the episode and start just reading the Wikipedia article for Apocalypse Now. Just in the middle of this. It's a high chance that I do that. I did that while I was editing the episode. I'm telling you right now, we'll do it while the Xander scene is happening too, but like when I was editing the episode, I just straight up had a moment where I was just getting inside my own head too much, and I was like, I'm just gonna read the entire Wikipedia article for Apocalypse Now and then Heart of Darkness. I was reading a lot about that because I never watched that movie. I've heard about it, but I never watched it. And I almost watched it just to talk about it in this video. I didn't, I've been busy, but I almost did it just to talk about it. Because this is the kind of episode where like, oh, we're talking about like a specific like novel, a specific movie. Oh, now I have to understand exactly what happens in that movie. But more important than that, I feel like what might be more important, and I could be wrong here because again, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but like I feel like maybe the cultural context of the movie might be more important than the actual movie itself. And that's not something I have. That's just not something I have. So I might just start reading more about Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness while this is happening, but I'm telling you right now that I already did just because of this fucking episode. Let's continue. Something I think it's kind of funny how you're realizing why it's difficult for me to get through like a show unless I do it for the channel. Because like I'll pause the episode every minute in order to just say shit for like 5 minutes. I have too many thoughts. Part 1. Willow.
I think I should worry that we haven't found her name.
Miss Kitty?
They're talking about their pet here, clearly. I mean, that's what she's saying, but I wonder if there's...
You think she'd let us know her name by now?
She's not all grown yet.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, I'm thinking about something now. Maybe the cat in the stream is a representation of their love, which would make sense. It's like it's something that we adopted together and we're gonna take care of her together. And it is kind of a representation of us, our relationship. And it's like, well, we don't know her name yet. She hasn't told us her name yet. Well, she's not all grown yet. So maybe this is a conversation about like how society might not be like fully cool with this idea, or it's gonna be weird for them, but eventually at some point it's going to be cool. But right now it's a little bit nebulous. Finding the definitions or being able to just come out and tell people about it, that could be it.
I never worry here.
You're worried? I never worry here. Yeah, when I'm with you, I'm not worried. You're safe here. That's good. That's good.
You don't know everything about me.
You don't know everything about me yet. I mean, that could just be just not knowing a lot about Tara yet, or it could be the fact that Tara is the first layer. It could be anything.
They will find out, you know.
Fear, people finding out.
I don't have time to think about that.
Too busy saving the world instead of having to worry about whether or not people hate me for being a lesbian.
You know I have all this homework to finish.
Homework could be homework, but I'm thinking homework is just duty. You can be late for your duty if you are with Tara, because Tara is priority. Somebody told me that I was wondering what she was writing on her back, and somebody told me it's a poem by Sappho. And then also they told me who Sappho was, like on like a YouTube comment, and I looked at that and I was like, I know who Sappho is. Don't worry, I got it. I know who Sappho is, which actually kind of makes the scene really overt and also incredibly fucking funny, because it is one of those things where like if somebody told me like, oh yeah, you have these two gay ass bitches and they're just writing Sappho's poems on each other's backs, I'm like, I wonder what this is about. It's like, of course it's, oh my fucking god. But that's also maybe not everybody is so much of a Tumblr dweller as I am. You know, like I know exactly who Sappho is. I've joked about Sappho on the channel before. There is an episode of Arcane that I titled the video Sappho's favorite body cup, which I still really proud of that title. I think it's probably the best video title that I've had on this channel. But it's like having someone try to like explain to me who that is. I'm like, don't worry, I got it. I know who Sappho is. Okay, this whole thing about drama, taking drama, because this drama play is gonna come in. I might have to go and read the Wikipedia article for this musical or whatever. It's not a musical, it's a play. What was it? The Salesman.
It's so bright. And there's something out there.
That's something that's weird about this episode, is that I am not entirely sure if something like that, like I don't want to live here, it's so bright and there's something out there, if that is in a reference to something that I should be thinking about, or if that is in a reference of the first Slayer that is out there trying to kill them. like I don't know if I should overthink that or not. Maybe taking drama classes is essentially being performative. That makes sense to me now that I'm thinking about it. The idea that you are an actor performing, which is something that is something that's very common for certain groups of people. Like, for example, if you're autistic, it's the idea of masking and performing is something that's very common for people. It's definitely the same for like LGBT people. Like the idea of I am worried that everyone's gonna hate me, or in some more extreme cases, like my family's gonna hate me and they're gonna like disown me and kick me out, and I'm gonna become homeless or something, or just a pariah of society if anyone knows um, of like my specific thing. That is mostly the case with transgender people nowadays. This is specifically about being a lesbian, or being in a lesbian relationship, and I have to imagine that it was worse back then in like this is like 99 or 2000, definitely worse than it is now, but it's also like this is interesting because we also have to keep in mind the context of like what it was like not just in the United States but like in the specific like California state. I have no idea what that was like, but the idea of taking drama class to me makes sense because it's like, oh, I am performing, I am presenting myself as an actor who is not showing my real self, because if I did, I am worried of what may happen. Everyone's gonna hate me, you know?
Doing spells? She does spells with Tara.
Doing spells with Dara. That is one of the funniest bits about the season. I'm just saying, like, oh my god, they're doing spells together.
Think about two women doing a spell, and then I do a spell by myself.
You need to chill. Chill, Dream Sander, who's not real.
Everybody's here. Your whole family's in the front row, and they look really angry.
There's a production. Isn't this the first class?
The idea to me that this is starting to make a lot more sense now. Now that I'm thinking drama class is the idea of performing as like straight, lying to people in order for them to not hate you. Like Willow shows up and she's not super surprised that she's in drama class, but she's surprised at the fact that there is a production. It is not the first class. That is interesting, and that kind of makes sense because I'm thinking about the idea of, okay, I'm a lesbian. Like I've realized that about myself. But now before this moment, I just felt like I was just being myself. Like I didn't feel like I needed to hide. But now I feel like I have to hide. And now it feels like I just suddenly been thrust into this performance. And it is not something that even like I thought that maybe I would have time to like learn how to do it. I would have I would have time to like adjust a little bit. It's like, well, I realized that I'm a lesbian. So now I can now I've decided, well, you know, I'm gonna like keep it hidden from people. Maybe I'll like ease them into the idea. But now you find yourself in a situation where it's like, oh, actually, I do have to perform every time. Anytime I'm talking to anybody, every time that anyone is in front of me, I have to like pretend to be something that I'm not. And I didn't realize how much of a performance that was. I thought that I could like learn how to hide it a little bit, and maybe you will, but it is something where you're essentially just being thrust into the performance immediately. It's like you're center stage, your family's there, they hate you. Fucking perform.
I just think it's really early to be putting on a play. This isn't Madame Butterfly, is it? Because I have a whole problem with opera.
So, God, editing this video is already gonna be a nightmare. Y'all can hang out with me while I read this. It was poorly received. Okay, what is it about though? After the wedding ceremony, her uninvited uncle, a bonsai, which is something that I already clicked before. She places a small American flag in his hands and goes behind the screen, stabbing herself with her father's seppuku knife. Benganta rushes in, but he's too late, and Butterfly dies. Okay, alright. Okay, so that's what we just learned now. Yeah, I too have problems with that play, Willow. I do. As for like actual themes of that play that could come and connect with this, it's just the idea that like, I don't know, men are fucked up. But that also has a lot of like xenophobia in it, or like racism. It's the idea of like, well, I want an American wife, you know. But it's also just a fucked up play. We're gonna do that again for like the merchant or whatever, the salesman.
Now, everyone that Willow's ever met is out in that audience, including all of us.
I like that. Our very first performance, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this is the, like now that I'm a lesbian, this is the first time that I'm performing. And everyone who's Willow ever met is right there.
That means we have to be perfect. Behaving, it's about hiding. The audience wants to find you, strip you naked, and eat you alive. So hide. The things that you, you hold them, you touch them, use them.
Props?
No. Props? Yes.
You can argue that that's like a little bit of a small commentary on like, like when a woman says a thing, like society ignores it, but when the man says the exact same thing, it's like, no, that's correct. And something about Willow that is not something that we fully understand right now is the idea of like, why? If she into Tara, why is she a lesbian? And that could have a million answers, and the most basic one that I'm been assuming the entire time is just like, well, she's just like Sarah. It could just be as simple as that. However, for a lot of people, it is a little bit more complex of like, well, I don't like men because X, right? There is a reason for that. There's people that are like, well, I don't like women because X. There are reasons for that, right? Like, and that is entirely based on your own personal experiences, right? Like the life experiences you lived through, like maybe you had an abusive father, an abusive mother, like stuff like that can definitely influence in how you feel later and how you develop as a person. I am not sure if this is something about Willow that we will like maybe delve into later, as that like maybe she just doesn't like men, like she realizes she doesn't like men because of a reason, and maybe that's like a small hint of it, just like, oh, of course whenever a man says a thing, it's like, well, they are given the cookie but the woman is ignored, and maybe that is a part of it. However, that is not something we know yet about Willow, but that is like a small line that could be traced here.
Go on out there, lie like dogs, and have a wonderful time. I know this will be the best production of Death of a Salesman we've ever done.
Okay, so now, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to get this, to put that back there. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. I'll edit that in later, maybe. Sorry. Back to Wikipedia. Death of a Salesman is a 1949 stage play. Okay, the plot takes place in 1949. The setting is in the Loman home in Brooklyn. However, Willie was in the middle of an extramarital affair with a receptionist when Biff arrived unexpectedly and saw the half-dressed woman with him. Biff did not accept his father's cover-up story for her presence and angrily, why would it be the cover-up? Like, what would be the enough of a lie for someone to believe? I mean, we're free from him if he was like abusive in any way, or like the despair that he brought to our lives. But then at the same time, Happy chooses to follow in his father's footsteps, which is the irony of the name Happy versus choosing to follow this man who fell into despair when crazy and killed himself. It seems that Biff has this understanding that he's like, being a businessman is actually just not great. Right? Like, it's just not something that will make you happy. Happy, on the other hand, says, yeah, I will do that. And Linda says we're free. Facing reality, a notorious theme of this play. Will's fate is supposed to be a partially a result of his own moral failings, in particular the adulterous affair. He is haunted by the memory of his infidelity and by the fear that ran his son's life. Okay, so back to Buffy land. I just read a bunch about Death of a Salesman. Affair. Again, if we are to follow that thread of Willow maybe having a distaste of men, which also, like, in this specific instance of affairs, is like, well, Oz did cheat on her. The thing about this though, that I almost kind of forgot, but let's bring it back, is that if we are to follow that thread, which I'm not sure if we will, I'll only do that if in the future Willow kind of like expresses her feelings about that, about like having a distrust of men. The thing about that though is that even if Oz cheated on her, she cheated on him first. So like a little bit of that falls apart on that if you are to form a mentality like that. So although maybe she'll say, well, Sandra cheated on Cordelia. So I don't know what she's gonna grasp onto that if that thread is to be followed. But okay, going back here. The silence.
I've made a little space for the cheese slices.
Let's talk about this man. For like a second. Let's talk about this man for a second. Just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. This man right here. I did not talk about him at all when I first watched this episode. And the thing about that is that I don't know why just talking about the cheese man made me take off my headset as if I'm gonna sit here for like 5 minutes. I am horrible. I recorded for like 43 minutes. I am gonna kill myself. This video is gonna be a doozy. This is the thing about this is the cheese man. is that when I saw the Cheeseman, first I was confused, but then I was like, fuck it. This is an episode where I'm gonna be confused. So whatever the deal is with the Cheeseman, I'm not even gonna question it until the episode tells me. That's how random this man was, right? Like, he shows up and I'm like, fuck it, I don't know. Whenever the show wants to tell me, I'll listen. Right now, I don't care. I just completely gave up on trying to understand the Cheeseman right at the beginning. And it was very interesting to see people on YouTube comment about the Cheeseman. People were like, the thing about the Cheeseman, or like, the Cheeseman's funny. It's like, oh, you're wondering about the Cheeseman. And I'm like, I don't fucking give a shit about the Cheeseman. I don't. Because, like, it's either something that it doesn't fucking matter or will matter, but I have no way of knowing right now. So I'm not even gonna question it because it's just so fucking random out of the left field, right? Like, what in my mind I'm thinking about the fucking Cheeseman is that, like, in the final episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy is gonna die in a car crash. And as she's about to crash, she looks to her right, and there is the Cheeseman selling cheese. And then for some reason that is specific, like, random ass memory is gonna like be sent backwards in time in her mind palace or whatever the fuck we're seeing here in Restless, and that's what the Cheeseman is. It's just like a random bystander at the moment of her death. That is what I might think the Cheeseman might be. That is such a wild fucking thing to guess, but that's all I got. And honestly, I don't fucking care. I don't know jack shit about this Cheeseman because it's really random. The thing about the Cheeseman is so random that it feels like it's either like a joke by Mr. Whedon, the one that should not be named, right? Like, it's something that's so fucking out of the left field that it's like everyone is gonna be like, oh my god, what's the deal with the Cheeseman? And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that because it's fucking stupid, and it's either stupid for a reason. And the thing is that it is stupid for a reason. I don't know if the reason is for funsies, for gags, or because it will matter eventually. Whichever one it is, it doesn't matter right now. So I don't fucking care about this Cheeseman, okay? That's where I stand with the Cheeseman. I don't fucking care right now. Whenever the Cheeseman wants to show up again in the future, that's when we're going to be talking about the Cheeseman. Right now, who gives a shit? That's what I have to say on the Cheeseman. Because, like, he's so prominent in this fucking episode, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If he gave me a clue about anything, it would matter. But right now, it doesn't. So, we're 8 minutes into the episode. I need to start pausing less. I'm definitely gonna, like, cut the segments where I read Wikipedia articles. Like, I'm gonna, like, fast forward past them or something. This is just Twin Peaks. I haven't seen Twin Peaks, but I want to.
I'm in a play and my whole family's out there, and why is there a cowboy in Death of a Salesman anyway?
That's true.
Why have you come to our lonely small town, which has no post office and very few exports?
It's funny that I just read this entire, like, thing about Death of a Salesman, and then I'm looking at this, and it's like, this is not Death of a Salesman. There's, like, nothing about this looks like Death of a Salesman. Like, not even the setting is right.
I've come looking for a man. A salesman.
Something I love about that, though, now that I know that that's just not the play, is that that's exactly how dreams work. That's exactly how dreams work. I talk about this in the original reaction. I spend a lot of time just dreaming because when your sleep schedule is so fucked up, and I've had very high peak depression years where that was the case for me, you dream a lot. You spend a lot of time dreaming. The thing is that at a certain point, you just kind of deconstruct the way the dream works, right? You kind of see the layers of reality and why they are the way that they are. I love that because that is exactly how dreams work. Is that in the dream, you know it's the death of a salesman, but then things are happening and it's like you wake up and you're like, that wasn't dream of us. That wasn't even close. But I guess there was someone who mentioned a salesman.
If they find out, they'll punish you.
Fear of rejection.
What else could I expect from a bunch of low-rent, no-account hoodlums like you? Hoodlums, yes, I mean you and your friends, your whole sex. Throw them in the sea for all I care. Throw them in and wait for the bubbles, men with your groping and spitting all groin, no brain, 3 billion of you passing around the same worn-out urge. Men.
Again, like what I mentioned earlier, that could be something. Is that Santa in the background dead? That is just Buffy ranting about men being evil.
With your sales.
The idea of sales, you know, okay, salesmen kind of lie to you, trying to sell you something, right? Like the idea is like, oh, you're selling me something. Is someone trying to convince you of something, which could just be like lying, trying to present you something that isn't real. Yeah, okay, men lie to you. That could be something.
That's better. It's much more realistic.
Something that I'm thinking about this that I'm seeing this now. It might be the idea that, because when I originally saw this, I was like, well, Willow is like freaking out that she's like, people are gonna see her for the loser that she is. And that could still be it. I feel like that is kind of the way that it looks. That is the way that it presents itself to you. But it could also just be the idea of like, people don't believe, which is interesting. People don't believe that Willow is a lesbian. That could be it. That could be it. That people are just looking at Willow and being like, the fuck out of here. Like, Willow is like, oh, I'm gay. And someone is like, what the fuck is that? Like, people aren't gay. Being gay is not real. You know, like, it's that, like, a specific, like, brand of bigotry. So maybe that is what this fear is represented. That could be it.
Oh my god, it's like a tragedy.
I tried to warn you.
It could also be the fear of like, well, maybe I am not. It's like imposter syndrome. It's like, I am not gay, or I'm not gay enough. You know, it's the idea of like, well, I dated boys. I was into boys before. So maybe I'm not a lesbian. Maybe I'm faking it. You know, maybe it's that fear. And if that's the case, then it's like, well, there's a great label. It's called bisexuality. Because like, sometimes people get really hooked up on like labels. And it's ultimately, it's like, fucking whatever, dude. Like, fuck you whoever you feel like fucking. Like, that's how that works. But maybe that is like the level of insecurity where Willow is coming from. So that's another possible interpretation. Let's continue.
I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Do I have to Google The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? I think I watched the movie, the first movie. Are there more than one? I think I watched it. I'm not gonna Google that one. I more or less kind of know. Like, don't ask me thematically what that book is about. I'm just gonna move on from it.
Oh, who cares?
This book has many themes.
Such as? Well, you're the spirit. Yeah, you feel that being drained from you. Okay. Something I thought about that would be very interesting is that what if Willow's spirit was drained, Xander's heart was taken, Giles' mind was taken, and then there was Buffy's hands, which I don't know if they were able to be taken eventually. Wouldn't it be fucking crazy if season 5 starts and we realize that Willow is no longer a lesbian, Xander no longer cares about anything, and Giles is stupid? That would be crazy if we roll around season 5 and that's what happens, and it's like, oh, there were lasting repercussions that I didn't pick up on from this bullshit. Because, like, we do see her taking, like, sucking Willow's spirit, taking Xander's heart, and just slicing Giles' head. So it's this thing of, like, did that happen? Or we nullified it at the end of the episode? I don't know. Part 2. Xander.
I have to say, I really feel Apocalypse Now is overrated.
It gets better. Man? I remember that it gets better.
What's happening, my man? Oh, I'm beginning to understand this now. It's all
About the journey, isn't it? I remember that. So, that line, I didn't pass it originally when I first watched it, but maybe I mentioned it. That when he said that, I was like, oh, is that commentary on the show itself? Just like people who are watching Buffy, maybe there were a lot of like criticisms of the show being like too dumb or silly or whatever, getting distracted by like the Monster of the Week thing. And maybe that was just a direct response of like, it's not about that, you know, it's about these characters, it's about the journey, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's about all these things that these characters are going through and what that ends up developing and where they end up. It's like, maybe that's just straight up commentary on the show itself and the way that maybe some people had a wrong perception of it. But maybe this is all about Apocalypse Now. Also, when Sanders just said, like everybody's, Giles was like, oh, I'm starting to feel like this is really overrated. And Sanders was like, no, it gets better. I remember that it gets better. I mean, even, I could just go and read the fucking Wikipedia article for Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness. But I already read that. I kind of already know what the actual book and the movie are about. And there's differences between the two. But, like, I feel like more than anything, what it could mean is just Xander. It's that moment of like you know when you show a friend or someone like, it's like you saw like a really cool video and you were like, hey, you showed it to them and you're kind of like expecting them to like it and then they don't. Right, like you expect them to have like a reaction, like they laugh or something, and then they're just like completely deadpan and you're starting to freak out. You're like, oh fuck, like you start to freak out because you feel rejected, you feel like maybe you're dumb, you feel like you're being judged, and it's just all these things where it's like maybe that's where Sander is coming from when he says that. And that would be kind of on brand for Sander. We're going to be talking about Sander a lot. Dude, I've been recording for like an hour. We're not even to Sander yet. We're not even halfway through. Fuck my life. What am I doing? It's like midnight, by the way. This is going to be a while. Haven't eaten yet. Have to go get dinner. This is one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode.
Hey, Joyce.
Oh no. Anyway, they all left a while ago.
Oh, I should probably go catch up.
Heard that before.
The idea that people left without you and you were like, oh, I should probably go catch up. That's interesting because it's like people move. They don't even look at you. They just go. They don't even like ask you or like wait for you at all. They just go without you. And the second to hit is that Sander's response is, oh, I should probably go and catch up. It's this, and he doesn't like question it or anything. He's like, oh no, this is normal. It's normal that people leave me behind and I should go and try to catch up. Like that's on me. That's not on them for not waiting. That's and that's not even a weird thing. It's completely normal. It's like, oh yeah, I'm used to this.
I move pretty fast.
Weird like sex thing where because okay. Spoiler alert for the next half an hour of this. We're going to be talking a lot about masculinity, specifically toxic masculinity. Because even though I haven't recorded a video where I just talk about Sander and the topic of toxic masculinity, I literally talk to myself out loud as if I was recording, just talking about this topic and talking about Sander as a character regarding it. Because that's what I do with my free time. With my free time is just the same as if I was recording. I just talk about things. And it's something that I actually talked for like half an hour about it, and I was like, yeah, this tracks. This makes complete sense of what we see in this episode. So Sander being here like, oh, I move pretty fast, flirting with a MILF. It could be just him trying to perform masculinity, which is something he feels he has to do in order for people around him to accept him, because that's what toxic masculinity is. Moving on.
You know, a man's always after.
That's exactly, yeah, that's why I thought about it. Yeah, because he said that.
Conquest?
I'm a conquistador.
You sure it isn't comfort?
I'm a confortador also.
A man's always after conquest.
You sure it isn't comfort?
There we go. Also, I think that's probably like my favorite shot of the entire episode. It's uncanny, it's eerie, it's creepy, but it's also really fun. And it also makes a lot of sense of just seeing like a weird pan to Joyce's face. She's like nodding, mouth not moving, but she's talking and she's smiling. And it's also like weirdly slow motion. It's very dreamy. I love it. But this is something we actually talked about Sander before. Something I mentioned about Sander before 2 seasons ago, honestly. Like either season 2 or season 3. Whenever Sander started to become a more real character. Because Sander in season 1, to some degree season 2, like he was very much just like, oh, this is like the jokey guy. He's kind of like the pervy guy. It's like, whoa, performs masculinity. And that's why Sander was a character I did not care for. I did not like Sander a lot when I started watching the show. Now Sander has become a lot more developed, and especially what we're seeing here. And it's something that I mentioned a lot. And sometimes when I talk about things, sometimes when I say shit, I feel like I am just saying words. I feel like I am thinking too hard about something that should not be thought that hard about. So whenever I was talking about Sander being like, it's like, well, he always seems to be wanting to jump from person to person, or he wants people to like him, he wants girls to like him. That's not really what he needs, and that's not really what he wants. What he wants is actually like intimacy. That's the word I use many times. I'm like, he wants intimacy. He wants to feel like somebody is intimate with him. And I don't mean physically necessarily. I mean on a personal, deep connection level. Because like, and what Sander goes for is oftentimes something more superficial. And I'm like, he's going about this the wrong way, which is also something that's very, honestly, kind of normal for a lot of people in real life, and especially people who are victims to display of masculinity, and they're trapped in the circle that toxic masculinity drops them into. So whenever I'm looking at Sander and I'm saying all those things, that's what I'm thinking about. But I wasn't necessarily sure if that's what the show was doing. Now I think I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. And that's exactly what Joyce is saying. Like, Joyce says conquest, and Sandra's like, oh yeah, conquest. And then she's like, are you sure it's not comfort? And those are very different things. It's one of them, conquest, is the idea of like, you're going after women, you're trying to get into a relationship like that. You feel like, like you have to be like a champ, you have to be like a bro. It's like, oh dude, check out this girl that I got, or whatever. And Joyce says, are you sure it's not comfort? Like, the idea of like, I feel comfortable in someone's arms, like I feel like I'm at peace. I feel like I'm happy. Like, that is not a consideration that Sander is having. He is getting distracted by something way more superficial, which is, again, performative.
I've learned about boys.
That's cool about you.
I remember watching this scene the first time, and I was like, I love this because nobody sounds like they're a real person. Like, the things that they're saying sounds just off enough for you to be like, this is not how people talk.
It's very late. Would you like to rest for a while?
I also love that she's talking, but you don't get to see her face
yeah.
move. Oh, that's interesting. Actually, give me a second. Okay, yeah, you can see her not talk.
Would you like to rest?
Because, like, okay, this is the secret comes out. I'm gonna reveal a secret for you guys. You guys don't know this, but I'm watching a widescreen version of the episode. I watched this entire season in widescreen, and people told me not to do that, but guess what? I couldn't find another version, so I'm watching this widescreen. But for the sake of people's mental health, I decided to manually crop the episodes. Every episode that I watch, and you've seen on YouTube, I've been cropping it so they look 4:3, but I'm actually watching the 16:9 version. I was told that maybe there's like a weird color correction thing, so maybe you notice because of that, but I manually cropped the sides so you wouldn't be able to tell, because I know that makes people upset. Watching the widescreen version makes people upset. Fortunately, that's the one I have. Sorry, that's all I got. You're gonna have to deal with that. That means that I got to see a little bit more Joyce than you did on that pan. So I wanted to see how much of the weird dream of her not moving about you could see.
Yeah. I'd like you.
I'd like you. So this is something that's interesting, is that supposed to be the initiative or not? Because they're all wearing the initiative uniforms, but that might just be like, oh, that's the budget we had. Those are the leftover outfits that we had. But maybe they're not supposed to be the initiative guys. Maybe they're just supposed to be people like looking at him as if he was a lava rat. Now, what does that mean? What I'm thinking immediately is that if we're gonna talk about Sander in the idea of performing masculinity, maybe he's thinking like, well, they're looking at me peeing just to prove that I'm a man who's being standing. Or maybe measuring dick size. That could also be a thing, performing masculinity. So it's one or the other. I think those two make sense. So I'm just going to move on, and I'm going to say that that's maybe what that means. Like, he feels like there are people that like are actively taking notes about whether or not he's enough of a man.
That's not the way out.
That's not the way out. What does that's not the way out means? That's an interesting line. Because I also don't know what's on the other side of that door. Is that his house? Because he lives in the basement. So is that like the house where his parents live? That's not the way out. It's interesting because the house that's there is also actually the way out. You have to go through that house in order to go to the outside world. Maybe it's supposed to be like running away is not the way out. Interesting. I have no idea what that means, what that specific line means. But we're going to be talking about this later when actually the end of that scene happens with the Sander sequence. But that is his abusive household. And especially it seems like his abusive dad. Which Oh boy, we're gonna be talking about that. Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna pause in 5 seconds, by the way. Like, I know that I'm gonna pause in like 5 seconds because I already know what I have to say on this topic here. I'm so happy.
Giles here is going to teach me to be a watcher. Says I got the stuff.
Spike's like a son to me.
That's good.
So that, something that's interesting about that I actually didn't talk about when it first happened, but it was so clear to me when I was editing the episode. It's the idea that Sander feels, and correctly, he's kind of the joke of the group, because that's kind of the archetype he built for himself. But like, that doesn't mean he doesn't have any desires or dreams or wants or needs. And the thing is that we know that Sander has a fucked up family situation, and we know that what Sander wants is that Sander wants people to like him, and he craves intimacy, and he wants to feel the love and care that he could not feel any other way. It makes absolute sense for him to want Giles to be like a father figure to him, but he's not. He's Buffy's father figure. He's weirdly Spike's father figure. He's not Sander's. And that's something that's interesting to explore because, like, yeah, whenever I think about, like, Sander and Giles, I never think about Giles being like, oh, yeah, I love hanging out with Sander. It always feels like Sander says a joke and Giles is like, come on, dude. Like, take this seriously. So it always feels like he's always rejecting Sander. And Sander has this weird feeling of, like, well, I like Giles because he's a nice guy, and I wish he liked me more. And the thing about Spike here is that Spike has spent so much time this season hanging out with the Scoobies, with the gang, and I have to imagine that for Sander, that has a little bit of a sting where Sander feels like, really, y'all hanging out with Spike? Like, because Sander also complains about Spike a lot, but it's not coming from a place of he's evil. It's coming from a place of jealousy. And that's something you can very clearly see here. He's jealous of the fact that not just the gang, but mostly, in this instance, Giles gives Spike this treatment of like, well, I'm looking after him. You know, like, oh, I hate the dude, but I'm looking after him. And Sander feels this thing of like, well, nobody looks after me. I wish Giles looked after me. Like, that would be nice. It would be nice to have a dad. But instead, he's like, well, Spike is my new son. And Sander has this feeling of like, really? The guy that was just trying to kill us and has tried to do so multiple times. Like, this year he tried to do it. The only reason why he stopped is because there's a chip in his brain that physically stops him from doing so. That is the guy you're looking after, but not me? Okay. Sure. Yeah. This is so interesting. Like, Sander, I have to say, Sander is probably, I hate to say this. Sander is probably the best character in the show from, like, a writing perspective. Because, like, who the fuck gave a shit about Sander in season 1? And then all of these added context was added onto him as the show went on. And that recontextualized so much of his character. Was that planned from the beginning? I'm gonna say probably not, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that what they did with him eventually, and what that rewrote him as. And I think that's really good. I think that the thing about Sander as a character right now is really good. And that could also be just like, you know, like depends on the viewer, right? Depends on the person who's watching the show at any given time. Because like, okay, when I say Sander might be the best character on the show, I don't mean he's my favorite. He's fucking not. It's Tara. it's Tara and Faith and maybe Anya to some degree. I like Giles. I like Angel. Like, these are all characters that I like. The thing is that Sander seems like an incredible character from like a writing standpoint. I'm looking at him and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, there's a lot here. There's a lot of complexity here. But it could also depend on the viewer because maybe I just don't understand what it's like to be a young girl going through puberty and having to deal with all these responsibilities. Maybe I don't know what that's like. For a number of reasons, I don't know what that experience is like. However, I do understand a little bit more where Sander is coming from. From like every single one of the things presented to him about his character that really, really matter that I'm talking about now. That's something I do understand a little bit better. And that's why, as a character, I'm like, this is such a juicier character right now. So, like, I'm very intrigued, not for Sander, but for the rest of the cast. because I feel like if the show wants to go this direction with the character of Sander, I wonder what we're gonna do with the rest of them. Okay, let's continue. I also love the way this scene is shot, by the way. The lighting is so saturated.
I was into that for a while, but I got other stuff going on.
Oh, I like that. It was like I was into that stuff for a while. Like I was trying to be his son, and then I was like, well, I can't do that, so I'm just gonna go work, I guess. Stares at himself selling stuff.
Gotta be always moving forward.
Gotta have something. That's not something that you want. That's something that you feel like you have to have in order to just survive in society, or something that you feel like people force you to have it.
Like a shark with feet and much less fins.
And on land.
Very good.
Praise for Spike, but never praise for Sander.
Buffy, are you sure you want to play there?
I'm okay. It's not coming for me yet.
It's not coming for me yet. There's a different shot here. That's just a straight up different shot. What the fuck is that? Like, I'm frame by framing this shot, by the way, in case you can't tell. It's not coming for me yet, and then boom, changes into that. Also, I realized that this is where the final fight of the episode takes place, where she fights the... God, the way this frame is so good, because they're like in exactly the same place. I'm guessing these were all shot in the same scene, but there is a weird cut here, and I don't know why. Her expression changes, her hands moving, looking in the same direction. She closes her eyes, and then she's engulfed by light. Whatever that means. I remember when I watched this, the scene, I was like, there was a weird cut there. My eyes caught it. It was like 2 frames, but I caught it. It's so notorious.
You can't protect yourself from some stuff.
Way ahead of you, big brother.
Brother.
Maybe speaking of a desire for him to feel like Buffy sees him like a brother figure. You know, someone who's responsible, someone who's worth looking up to, but he's not bad. Or the idea of like, well, I couldn't date Buffy. Like, we couldn't be lovers. She sees me like a brother, so that completely cuts that bridge. Could be one or the other. I feel like it's more likely to be the first, the former. Like, he wishes that Buffy could look up to him, like he shouldn't be always the one behind. Looking at himself. I'm looking at his expression. Both are just gone. No clear expression. Looking at himself from a distance, seeing Giles and Spike hang out, seeing Buffy in a sandbox, and himself just outside of it. I once again feel like my brain is turning into mush, by the way. And now he starts, driving with the shitty green screen with Anya.
Isn't vengeance kind of vengeful?
You don't want me to have a hobby.
Not a vengeance hobby, no. People can't do anything they want. Society has rules and borders and an end zone. It doesn't matter if...
Okay, so he's talking about like how society has this like rules, things you have to follow. And then immediately cuts to lesbians. But it's also this idea that like, and this is gonna like, I'm gonna be getting ahead of myself a little bit by saying this, but I feel like this might be a little bit of a Sander trying to grab onto this this idea of like a set of rules or a set of morality that you should follow. So it's like, vengeance is bad, you shouldn't go for that. Or like, like people shouldn't be allowed to let it do anything they want. And like the reason why he's holding on to that might be because he is trying not to be his dad, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is, I am not sure what the household situation is with Sander. I don't think we know yet. We know it's bad. We know it's abusive. We don't know exactly why or the reason. We don't know exactly how or the reason why. It could be, and I think later in this episode, specifically because we see his dad, we can say that maybe his dad is abusive. It could be a household situation where his dad is abusive to his mom, and his mom just kind of drinks those sorrows away, and she's just completely gone in a haze of alcohol in order to not have to deal with the situation that she lives in. And then she turns abusive in turn as a result of the abuse done to her. But his dad might be the primary aggressor. So if Sander is to perform masculinity, which is toxic, but he doesn't know that because he's a teenager and he's just starting to realize that. But there's also a reality that if you grow up in a fucked up household like that, if you grow up in a household where you have an abusive dad, what happens is that is your image of masculinity. Like, that is what you see as that is supposed to be your role model, and you see that and you think to yourself, is that what I'm supposed to do? And you kind of try to do it, but then you get to the point where, like, I don't want to do that. That sounds bad. That sounds evil. That sounds like something a bad person would do. So what you do is that you define a set of rules and morals that you try to hold yourself up to, that you try to enforce into your life. So wherever Anya says, like, I should get back into vengeance, Sander is like, no, that's bad. People shouldn't do that. And it's like, why not? It's like, well, because there's like all these rules that you should follow. And it's this thing of like, maybe he's enforcing his own rules because he doesn't want to be something like his dad. He doesn't want to be one of the fucked up abusers. So he's always afraid of giving into like that desire of like, oh yeah, let's go for vengeance. It's like, we shouldn't do that because like, that's what bad people do, and I don't want to be like them. So maybe that's where that comes from. It also goes in directly into this scene where he's talking about it's good with society, what's the societal rules, and then immediately cuts to lesbians, which is not something that probably was seen completely positively in society back then. So,
Do you mind? I'm talking to my demon.
We just think you're really interesting.
I again love that they're talking without moving their mouths.
I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah, she is. So we think you're really interesting. Whether to take that at face value or not, unsure. Maybe that's just something he wishes people told to him. Maybe he feels like that's a lie. I'm going places, and Willow says way ahead of you, which is true. It's the idea of like, I am ahead of you in life. Because if the goal in life is to find a loving partner, however, the way that Sanders perceives that, what Sanders sees is this. This is what Sanders sees, which is not necessarily like the image of like, you know, wholesome love with one another, with your significant other and being happy together. This is like a sexy version of it. And that's like Sanders' image of it. Because like, again, Sander is in this weird spot where all the things that I'm saying with like certainty, these are not things that Sander realized yet necessarily. These are things that Sander has to realize. And Sander probably maybe hasn't fully come to terms with ideas of masculinity that were imparted onto him just by growing up, just by living in the society he lives in and by performing in it. Like, he probably hasn't fully realized that. I don't think he has, because he still has a lot of those quirks that he hasn't moved on from. And I'm not sure how much of that he hates in himself and wants to change, and how much of it is just stuff that he hasn't realized that he has to change yet. And something like this, he's saying like a incredibly sexy version of Willow and an incredibly sexy version of Tara, just very sexily dressed, looking at him with this suggestive look, and just starting going to town on one another. It's this idea of like, to him, that is what love is, and that is what the goal should be. But that's not really it, right? Like, because like, that's not necessarily love, and that's not the okay, defining love is something weird, and it also kind of really depends on the person. But this image of love that he has, these two hot lesbians looking suggestively at each other, he sees that as like, oh, I wish I had that. You know, I wish I had an incredibly fucking smoking hot babe girlfriend dressed like this who looks at me suggestively, and it's like, oh yeah, let's fuck. It would be even better if it was two of them, you know? Like, that's the goal that he has in his mind. But that's not what he actually needs. That's not what he actually wants. When he sees Willow say, way ahead of you, it's this idea that Willow has what he perceives to be the goal, which is a sexy lesbian. But Sander probably doesn't feel like that's...
Watch this.
Sander probably doesn't feel like he has accomplished his goal, and he looks at Willow and sees that Willow has accomplished his goal. The goal being of being in an incredibly hot, steamy lesbian relationship. But that is like his perception of what a goal should be. And he's looking at that with awe. Again, look at him. I really like this shot, by the way. It's really fucking funny. When this happened the first time, I was ready for this to just be a shot for like 5 minutes.
Do you want to come in the back with us?
Him fantasizing about that. Yeah. That's really funny. The thing about the relationship with Anya here that's interesting about Sander. You know, I wasn't wrong. I was going to talk about Sander for like 40 minutes. I knew that when I started this video. But I think about Anya is interesting because I am not fully sure what is supposed to be the deal with the relationship between Sander and Anya here. Because I'm not sure if the relationship is healthy. I don't think it is from Sander, but it might be from Anya. That's interesting. Because what we see here is that Sander still has like a weird desire to chase what he perceives to be his goal, which is this steamy, hot threesome with 2 hot lesbians. And instead, he's completely ignoring the actual relationship he does have with Anya. Because that's not Anya. Like, a relationship with Anya is not what he perceives to be that. What he wants. Which is interesting because also Anya is incredibly horny on main at all times, right? So like Anya is a horny person. So being in a relationship with Anya, but that's the thing is that Sander, that's a weird, interesting thing where Sander is simultaneously wanting to go after the conquest of the 2 hot lesbians that just look incredibly sexy. But he's in a relationship with someone who's just horny on main and wants to fuck him all the time. And that's not actually good enough for him. That's not something he feels accomplished with. But it makes sense that he doesn't feel accomplished with that because that's not actually what he wants. However, he's still falling prey to the mentality that what he wants is something that's like hot, right? Is the hot lesbian threesome, is this. And it's like, it's not it. It's not like the sexuality aspect of it. It's not like the hot girls aspect of it. That's not what you are after. But he's still on the idea that that's actually what he wants, even though he already has an incredibly hot girlfriend who wants to fuck him all the time. Or maybe I just have very high estimations of Anya. Maybe I just like Anya too much. But like, if that's what Sander actually wanted, he shouldn't be going for this anyway. He shouldn't be going for that. He should be going for something more intimate. He should be going for something more caring. And the thing is that Anya actually does care about him. Anya actually, there was a cute scene, I think it was in the finale when there were, yeah, it was in the finale because it was the aftermath of everyone. Or maybe it's the second to last episode. I don't remember. Oh, duh, this is the finale. The finale is not, the episode where they fight Adam. In that episode where they fight Adam, there was a scene where Sander was just feeling like he's a failure, like he's not accomplishing much. And Anya was like, but what is the problem with that? You know? She was like, I still love you. And it's the thing where Sander feels vulnerable and he feels like he's a fuck up. And maybe hearing someone tell him, yeah, you are, but I still love you. Maybe that's not what he wants to hear. He wants to hear people tell him, no, you're cool, you're awesome. But instead what Anya told him was, you know, yeah, you are a fuck up, but, you know, I love you. And he's like, I don't want to be a fuck up though, you know? So maybe he doesn't feel like particularly good about being with Anya. But Anya is not necessarily saying anything wrong. Anya is not necessarily being a bad partner here. She's supportive. She loves him regardless of anything. So like all of this makes Sander incredibly interesting because it's like such a flawed mentality. We're not even halfway through the episode. What the fuck am I doing with my life? If it helps anything, I think Sander is probably the meatiest part of the episode. So, oh god, I forgot we have to do Apocalypse. Oh, the cheese
will not protect you.
I forgot we have to do Apocalypse now and now. I thought we were gonna go into the abusive household thing, but oh yeah, we have to do the French as well. God damn it, there's a lot here. I was told that the French here is actually really bad French, and I'm like, that makes sense. Why would Sander know French?
And the others have gone on ahead.
Again, an instance of people getting ahead of you.
Listen very carefully. You need...
La maison de nous tout dormant.
Tes copains sont tous là, ayant un taf merveilleux et rentrant en livrée normale. La créature ne peut pas te faire de mal.
Something about that is that, I don't know, Sandra might have like ADHD or something, you know, because I see that and I think about the idea of like someone is telling you like, listen, this is really important. And you're like, okay, I'm listening. And then they say something and you're like, I didn't catch that. What was that? Again, sorry. And then they're like, fuck you. I just told you. And then they say something again completely unintelligible to you. And you feel like you're struggling to keep up. That because like of what he just said. He was like, you know, everyone has already gone on ahead and Sander's trying to catch up. And then it's like, oh, you should know that. And then they say something to you, you completely miss that. You don't get it. And it's like this feeling of like being left behind, of like, I am a failure. I am always drawing everyone down. And I think that is what like the French here is supposed to be. It's the idea of like, I'm trying to understand what's going on. I'm asking and someone is telling me what the answer is and I can't hear it. And that's on me. The French is weird because it's this thing where like people know French. Anya comes in later and she also starts talking French. And it's this thing of like, oh, everyone around me speaks French, but I don't know it. So it's my fault for not knowing French, you know? It's this thing where like, I feel like I am struggling to keep up. I'm trying really hard, but I feel like this is a task that it is impossible for me to hold myself up to. But I still feel bad because I still feel like it's my fault for somehow being a fuck up. God damn me for not knowing French. I don't know if I explained myself correctly, but that is also what a lot of being neurodivergent feels like.
Ah, dis donc, ce n'est pas le temps pour les jeux idiotes.
That is rejection. Like, I'm not fully sure what he just said, but very clearly that is a rejection. That is that line.
Non, on t'attend.
C'est ce que j'essayais de dire.
Honey, I can't hear you.
C'est pas important.
And now we're in Apocalypse now. But like the weird version that he saw on the TV.
I walked by your guidance counselor's office one time. A bunch of you were sitting there, waiting to be shepherded. I remember it smelled like dead flowers, like decay. The hope of our nation's future is a bunch of mulch.
I walked by your guidance counselor's office one time. I don't know what a guidance counselor necessarily is. That's not a thing for my country. I think I have an idea of what that is. This what he's saying. I walked by your guidance counselors one time. A bunch of you were sitting there waiting to be shepherded. I remember it smelled like dead flowers. If we are gonna go really hard into the toxic masculinity aspect of Sander, then we can say that the idea of like, oh, being in high school, walk by the guy at the office, there's a bunch of you there. There's a bunch of young boys waiting to be shepherded, being imparted the mentality of masculinity into them. Yeah, sorry. This is not a bit, I actually do some spit. I've been talking a lot. But what I'm thinking is the idea of like, there's a bunch of young boys who are essentially waiting to be imparted this idea of what you should be performing. Because the thing is that like, we're going to get into a little bit of a gender studies 101 here, but masculinity and femininity are performances. And this is something a lot of people understand. A lot of people think that this is something that is you are a part of immediately from the moment you're born because of your biology. It's not true. Gender is something that you perform in as part of society. It's something, it is a social construct. That's what that is. That's what gender is. So like all these young boys and stuff in high school, they don't fucking know what they are supposed to be. However, society tells them that they should be a specific way, which is you gotta be a man. And that is something that is reinforced to you by literally everyone around you, everyone you talk to, everything around you. And we can blame a lot of shit onto like sexism of the past. We can blame it on capitalism, because capitalism loves the like nuclear family, like a specific like brand, because you can sell more product if you market certain products to a specific like group of people that you create and reinforce. We can blame it on a lot of things, but this idea for all these like young boys, they don't know who they want to be. They don't know who they should be, but they feel like they need to be something, and they feel like they need to accomplish something in order to be accepted. Because that's the thing about toxic masculinity that's the worst here. All these people here, they feel like in order to be accepted and not rejected, because something you understand eventually is that most of humanity, most of any person is built around the idea of not wanting to feel rejected. On small ways, in big ways, taking different levels and different extremes in order to accomplish that. But like a lot of in this topic we're talking right now, toxic masculinity, is the idea of like, oh, I feel like I have to perform in order for my peers to not reject me, in order for my peers to be like, oh, you're cool. So I'm doubling down on this persona that I'm building. And I feel like, okay, I'm setting all these goals and mental checklists that I have to do in order to perform masculinity so that my fellow men can like me. However, everyone is performing at that point. Everyone feels like I have to do this thing in order to be liked. And that goes as hard as like being part of your family. There's a lot of toxic masculinity also, not just in the experience for younger boys, but it's also in older men. They are the ones that like fomentate it. They're the ones that keep the cycle going. And if you're born into a family and your dad is part of it, which most of them are, not necessarily abusive sense, but still like clearly defining things that all these guidelines that you should be following, then of course a bunch of young boys are going to end up there. So what Snyder's saying here, if we're going to go with this topic of toxic masculinity, Snyder is saying here, like, I walk by the galaxy concert software, there were a bunch of you there waiting to be shepherded. You were a bunch of boys, you didn't know what you wanted to do with your lives, you were waiting for someone to impart to you what the guidelines you should be following. And then it says, I remember it smelled like a bunch of dead flowers, which, like, flowers, I mean, it's something that traditionally is related to femininity. That is the perception that people get, you know? Like, if in the real world, like, if you were like a 15-year-old boy in high school and you were like, oh, I think flowers are really pretty, you get your ass beat. That's not something you can say. And like, that's what I'm talking about here, right here. It's the idea of like all these things that you like bury in yourself, and it's like you can't say them. You can't ever be allowed to even allow yourself to think that. That's gay shit, you know? That's what girls do. That's not what a man does. And Snyder saying like, oh, it smelled like a bunch of dead flowers, kind of sounds like that to me. It's the idea of like you killed all of the like cute parts or the enjoyment of something that's like beautiful in nature, like, and you were like, no, because you felt like that wasn't manly, so you had to kill it. So that's what I'm thinking.
It smelled like dead flowers.
Like, what I'm thinking about is like, has anyone ever thought about this like one or two lines the fucking Snyder says in this episode as hard as I have? Because I feel like I'm crazy sometimes when I'm recording this. Like, I'm stopping every 2 minutes and then I go into like a 10-15 minutes tangent saying the most insane shit. And I don't know if I'm cooking or if I'm insane. If anything, I hope this is content for y'all. If anything, I hope that it's at least funny to see me just go nuts like this. But let me know if anyone has cooked with this episode as hard as I have.
You know, I never got the chance to tell you how glad I was you were eaten by a snake.
Xander completely disregards what he just said. He doesn't understand that.
Well, I'm supposed to meet Tara and Willow, and possibly Buffy's mom.
Again, conquest.
Are you a soldier?
I'm a confortador.
Also, I mean, the idea of a confortador, like, that sounds like somebody who provides comfort, but that is still missing the point. It's like, oh, I'll comfort you, babe. But it's like, no, motherfucker, you need comfort. You need someone to hold you in their arms to take care of you. And that's not something he realizes. Because, again, that's also part of toxic masculinity. It's the idea of like, well, I have to be the one in charge. Or I have to be the one who's stepping up. And it's like, oh, I can never ask for help. I can never need help. I'm just gonna take it. Because that's what I'm supposed to do.
You're neither. You're a whipping boy, raised by mongrels and set on a sacrificial stone.
Such a wild line. Let me Google what a whipping boy is, because that's not something I did before. A whipping boy was a boy educated alongside a prince or boy monarch in early modern Europe, who was supposed to receive corporal punishment for the prince's transgressions in his presence. The prince was not punished himself because his royal status exceeded that of his tutor. Seeing a friend punished would provide an equivalent motivation not to repeat the offense. A whipping boy raised by mongrels and set on a sacrificial stone. Sounds metal as shit. But the idea of like whipping boy means you take punishment for for someone else. Oh god, it just it like connected in my head just now. it's like I mean, we haven't gotten that confirmation yet, but it just connected the dots in my head of like, oh, you take punishment instead of someone else. Who could that be? And we haven't gotten to see much of Sanders' parents, but I just mentioned earlier how it could be inherently possible that dad is the abuser and mom isn't necessarily an abuser, but she just kind of stopped caring at some point. And it would make sense for him to take punishment for his mom, for example. Maybe he doesn't do that anymore, but maybe that's something he did at some point. Maybe it's not necessarily corporal. Maybe he stays in his home in order to be like the lamb that his parents yell at instead of them fighting each other. He's like, well, at least they have someone to yell at, which is me. And that's better than my dad killing my mom. Something like that. I was thinking that like maybe it's like, oh, he's the whipping boy because he's like, whatever, he suffers, but then like Buffy is always center stage and Buffy gets to shine, and Xander is the one that we get to clown on all the time. That's like a little bit more metatextual though. I like the idea of Xander being someone who takes punishment instead of his mom. That's kind of really endearing and incredibly sad, but also makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're gonna move on. I'm glad I looked up what a whipping boy was.
I'm getting a cramp.
That's something also that's very Xander. Him like, I'm getting a cramp. It's like deflection, which is something that's very common in like victims like that. It's the idea of like anyone, whenever they present you something that's really real, that makes you feel vulnerable, you don't want to engage in that vulnerability. You don't want to engage in that conversation. So you deflect and change the subject and just kind of smile. And it's like, oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm really glad I decided to make this video.
More serious than we thought.
Giles? I can fight anything, right? Maybe we should slap him.
That idea that he comes in, he wants his friends to listen to him and they don't. And he specifically says to Giles, you know, just like Giles, as if he was his dad, which again, he wishes he could see him as a father figure. And he does, but that is not mutual. So, but they don't listen to him because, again, nobody takes him seriously. God, Xander is such a chunky character. Jesus fucking Christ. And I will say this. I'm just gonna say it and I'm gonna move on with my life. He could be a chunky character because it could be based off of the person who made the show. And I'm not fully sure if that's true. I'm not fully sure if there's any like information in order to point in that direction. But like, I usually don't talk about Joss Whedon. I don't want to. But it is very interesting because it is very interesting that a person like him could write this, but it makes sense to me in my head. Because when I started watching the show, the first thing I said in the first episode of Buffy is like looking at the camera and I said, fuck Joss Whedon. The reason why I did that is because it had come to light like a year or two prior that the man apparently was incredibly abusive on set for everyone in Buffy, but mostly the female cast members. But also he was incredibly horny on Maine. Apparently he really mistreated them and he really kind of took advantage of them. And I remember I really wanted to know what was up with that. And I remember I read an article which was someone interviewing him and they really detail like what was the deal with him. And then you get to hear from Joss Whedon himself, like him explaining that. And the thing is that at any point, it felt like Joss Whedon was trying to deny anything. He was just like, yeah, I was a bad person. I did fucked up things. Which was incredibly wild to hear. Because you also hear how he like explained why that was. And like, this is very interesting. Because I remember reading it. He said like, well, imagine you're like me, you're like one of those like nerdy guys, and you go to school and nobody likes you, everyone makes fun of you, you're kind of just the outcast. And then suddenly you find yourself in a situation where you're writing for the show, you're directing the show, you're the showrunner. You're making up the show, you're making up these characters, and now you're surrounded by all this like pretty models and stuff. And like a part of you is thinking like, oh, I'm cool now. I get to be the cool guy. And I want everyone to treat me like I'm the cool guy. So I'm just like pretending I'm playing on the idea that I'm the cool guy. You know, so and it's like, yeah, I am going to mistreat the cute girls around me because I finally get to have cute girls around me. This is what I always wanted. But it's like you're completely ignoring the power imbalance of it all and just the situation. It's like, God damn it. And that's like, it's wild to me. And this is something I thought about off screen because I said earlier, I was thinking about this whole thing with Sander off screen. And now I'm finally getting to say it on camera. But like, it's wild to me, but it kind of makes sense that somebody who has that and goes through that also writes a character like Sander. Because I have to imagine that he wrote from experience. Because I also remember how he like talk about like, oh yeah, I always looked up to women, and it's like I was always like admiring them, kind of weirdly putting in a pedestal. And it's like, yeah, because like my mom was such a hard worker and stuff. And it's a thing of like, it feels like to me like he wrote this entirely from experience. And that's why it feels like the most real. And that's why it feels like the most like the more meaty character, that there's a lot to this character. But that also makes me just sit here and be like, my guy, you were writing this and at the same time completely failing to just do well in real life. So like, and that also, that is a testament to Sander as well, because Sander is someone, like I just said earlier, contradictions. Like it feels like this is a character who like, he wants a thing and he continuously chases something that he doesn't need. He continuously chases something that he feels like, oh, I want that, I want the hot girls. And it's like, that's not what you want, that's not what you need. But he's still going after it. And ironically enough, someone who kind of understands it fails to live by that in real life. And maybe I'm reading too much into this, like an insane amount into this. But that's how I feel. That's how I feel looking at this character of Sander. And then I'm looking at the man who wrote it, and I'm like, how? And I'm like, I get how. Because that's like the flawed, faulty version of that mentality. It's like not allowing yourself the room to grow and to like become better. It's like, no, I am gonna double down on what I do believe. It's this weird idea of like putting women in a pedestal and putting men in this place of like, well, they're all bad and evil. And at some point you stop seeing yourself as someone that could be a part of that cycle. It's like, well, no, I am just going to give into this like weird vices and mentalities that I have without actually being like, no, there's some things that about me that I should maybe fix. And I should do that not just in order to improve myself, but also for the well-being of the people around me. So this is so intriguing to me. This is so interesting to me. Everything about Sander and just him as a character that was written is so interesting to me. Let's keep going. We're a little bit over halfway through the episode. Good. Oh, it's 1 a.m, by the way. You know what? I'm gonna take my vitamins live on camera because I haven't done so yet, and it's 1 a.m, so I should maybe do that. I had a blood test done to me 2 months ago, and I found out that I'm incredibly vitamin D deficient, which makes a lot of sense. I haven't seen the light of the sun in over a decade since I dropped out of high school, so you know. Oh, okay, this is a fucked up point.
That's not the way out.
I like that. I like that. That is an abuse victim right there. I mean, allow me to explain, in case you need me to. It's the idea of like, dad breaks down the door, he bursts into your room, and your immediate reaction is to just look completely down. Avert your gaze, don't engage, look shameful. That is an abuse victim. That's not the way out. Is he saying that to himself or is he saying that to his dad? Let me take my vitamins. I'm sorry. I'm wondering if I should edit this video at all when I post it on Patreon. Patreon people don't give a shit. But also at the same time, do you guys really want a video that's like 3 hours long and it's just me just fucking around and saying crazy shit and drinking water and coughing and shit? And like, you'll get to see like all the... I usually edit all the times that I say something and then I'm like, oh, I said that wrong. Let me do a retake. I usually edit that. There's a lot of cuts in my videos. That's why it takes a while to edit them, because I have to manually listen to myself and cut all that. What if I just post this as is? Fucking 3.5 hours long, bunch of mistakes, fuck it. Me drinking vitamin D, let's go. What if I choked on camera? I have to take 2, by the way. I'm incredibly vitamin D deficient. Drink water, everybody. Water's good for you. That's not the way out. Who is he saying that to? To himself? To his parents? Like, that's such a line that I feel like I have to decipher. What the fuck is the point of this episode if I'm not? What the fuck is the point of this video if I'm not gonna try to decipher that? That's not the way out. I feel like that's something that should be obvious, but I'm not picking up on. And I feel stupid. I feel really stupid. I'm so dumb. That's not the way out. You should be getting a divorce and leaving. Instead, you come for me, and this is the way out for you. Taking it all on your son.
Ashamed of us? Your mother's crying her guts out.
You don't understand.
Bring Nancy here with us. You're not gonna change that. You haven't got the heart. Your mother's crying her guts out.
That was the line that made me think like, oh, maybe he just beats her up. The line ends here's with us. Like, maybe it's this idea of like he's judging him for not being enough of a man in order to actually have like a woman and children or whatever. I don't know. Or just, maybe it's just a threat. It's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Or like, you're too much of a wimp in order for you to actually have a line. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, you're not gonna change that. You haven't got the heart. Yeah, you don't have it in you in order to actually go for a relationship. Part 3, Giles.
Don't you think it's a little old-fashioned?
This is the way women and men have behaved since the beginning.
Maybe that is going into Giles' history just kind of being a puppet of the council. You know, him saying like, well, just follow orders, do as you're told. You know, you don't necessarily have to think about all your actions. It's like, just do what protocol tells you to do.
Look into the light.
Yeah, and him, importing that onto Buffy. That's what he was trying to do in seasons 1 and 2 and 3 to some degree. It was him being a part of the council and telling Buffy, like, you should do this, you should do that. He's realizing now that, like, he shouldn't have been doing that. I mean, this is just Giles being Buffy's dad. I mentioned this in the original video. It's just that, yeah, where he sees himself as Buffy's father figure, and he is. But he's seeing himself also dating this woman that he's been dating before. And, like, he also sees, like, training as, like, a bonding father-daughter activity. So it's like a game.
Buffy, you have a sacred birthright to protect mankind.
He sees himself as someone that's nagging.
Oh, you stick me.
I haven't got any treats.
Someone who doesn't necessarily reward. Someone who doesn't give compliments. It's like, do the thing that you're supposed to do. And sees Buffy as someone who, like, very clearly wants to engage. Using, you know, training as something of like a father-daughter bonding activity, because the reality is that Giles is very much like Buffy's like stepdad, but he sees himself as someone who's just not good at it, and in a bad sense, in like, I am a mess. I am not someone who's kind to Buffy. I just tell her to do things, and I feel bad that I do that.
But go easy on the girl.
I remember I saw it and I was like, that's fucking wild. You're gonna get that all over your face. And then this. I have no clue what this is. I mean, okay, I know what it is. I don't know what it means, more specifically. Like, this is like... Sorry, I'm trying really hard not to sneeze. This is like thermal camouflage, really. And she does it later in the episode as well. That's what this is. It's the idea of like... Okay, I have to edit this video so you don't have to see me sneezing. I'm muting myself whenever I do, but I'm having a real rough one here. It is 1 in the morning. I've been recording for over 2 hours, talking about Dom Sander, sneezing my brains out. I haven't had dinner yet. Fighting for my life here. Buffy looks weird. You know, it is just fitting that anything regarding to Restless just feels like insanity. That's why I made the description for Restless on my YouTube like the most insane shit that I've ever written. Right? Like if you go to my video description for the reaction to Restless, it's like the most unhinged shit. And that's exactly what I wanted it to be. But yeah, this is thermal camouflage. And she does it later in the episode too. Like this is the idea of like putting mud on your face, so like whenever someone sees you with like thermal goggles, like they are not able to see the heat in your face. So that's what that is. Now, why is it here? I'm thinking that it might be the idea of like turning Buffy into a soldier, which is what Giles is doing by training her, and he sees himself as someone who has facilitated that, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing to do. And I'm leaning towards thinking about that and as that is the thing that should be the point of this shot here, because of Buffy's expression being just like completely deadpan. It's not like I'm happy, it's like a completely expressionless.
I know you.
That's the wildest shit. I have no idea what that is. Or maybe he's talking to the yeah. Okay, so what this is, what this is the spirit of the Slayer. You know, this is the essence of slaying, of killing, which is what Giles is training, and he's bringing that out in Buffy. However, that is also the essence of the Slayer is the antagonist for this episode. Is that like lady with the crazy hair, and that is what he says. Like, I know you.
Come on!
I don't know why that shot is so fucking funny to me. It's probably the funniest shot in all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's the zoom out.
Come on!
It's like the Torchwood zoom out. Come on! Oh, it reminds me of Torchwood so fucking much. Torchwood did that a lot. Torchwood did a lot of just like zoom ins and zoom outs in the middle of just scenes, and it's just not the kind of shit that you usually do in serious filming, but it was just really funny, and it's so funny here too.
Come on!
Seeing Spike just like excited, be like, come on!
Don't push me around, I have a great deal to do.
Is that, like, I'm not fully sure. I can't really tell. She's in the background. I don't really see her features. And also, we've only seen Giles' girlfriend like 3 times, and it's never been like for an extended period of time. Even in this episode, you don't get to see her face too well. So, like, I am not sure if that is the same actress or if that's a different actress. So let me know if that is the same actress or a different actress. I actually asked that on the original YouTube video. Nobody told me. So if you know someone on Patreon, let me know. I would look that up on like the wiki, like who was the actress, but that's risking too many spoilers, so I'm not gonna do that. But like, if that is Giles' like girlfriend, she's literally sobbing onto the side. What is she holding? I'm thinking that might be a ballista or something like that, like a weapon. Maybe it's his girlfriend, and it's the idea of like she's just crying on the background, and Giles is like, "Don't bother me, I have shit to do." Sorry, I just wanted to check out frame by frame if there was like, yeah, that's what I saw, like that weird shadow, but it's just a shadow, really. It's not weird. Yeah, that just looks like Giles, like he's getting distracted by Spike just doing dumb shit instead of paying attention to something that really matters, which is, you know, like the pain or suffering and struggles of the person he loves. He's like, don't bother me, I have shit to do. This is my job.
I wear the cheese. It does not wear me.
So with Sander, he said, oh my god, I'm thinking about the cheese, man. With Sander, he said, the cheese will not save you, I think. With Giles, it says, I wear the cheese, it does not wear me. If cheese is supposed to be something different, like if you replace the word cheese with something else, we're gonna go back to Cheeseman later. We're just gonna move on with our lives right now.
In the sense of being in the ground underneath them and fertilizing the soil and decomposition.
I zoned out for like 20 seconds. I'm sorry. I'm gonna rewind. So like my brain just kind of stopped. I don't know why. It just stopped. I was thinking about that Willow should look like decrepit, like the way she looked when she got like the spirit sucked out of her or whatever. But wait, that was too much money on makeup.
A man walks into the office of a doctor.
I wonder if there's any meaning to that.
She's doing quite well.
Do you know this is your fault?
when I watched it the first time, I still got it. It was like it's such a like oh yeah, this person struggles with guilt. This is what your brain tells you. You know, this is your fault.
We have to think of the facts, Willow. I'm very busy. I have a gig myself, you know.
Oh, this is interesting. Do you know this is your fault? Followed with, we have to think of the facts, Willow. It's the idea of somebody points a reality to you of you being the one at fault for something, and you using logic and rationality as a shield in order to deflect that. It's the idea of like you're doing something wrong or you're guilty for something, and you saying, no, but like this is what, think about the logic of this. This is something that makes sense, you know? And that is just that is a shield, really. That is something for you to not think about the reality of what you're doing or what you're saying. You're instead just focusing on like, no, this makes sense though. So it has to be right.
I don't think we stand a chance.
I just wanted to do a bed because like I bought a bass because I really want to learn how to play the bass. It was something I really wanted to do for a long time. And I thought it would be a fun bed, but like the reality is that I have no fucking clue how to play this thing yet. I'm learning. So I couldn't even hear what I was doing. I really love the fact that he's doing his musical bit there. I really do love that. I love this. I love this part with Giles. Like for some reason, I don't know why, it's kind of catchy. Like when he goes, and Sandra, like, I've got to warn Buffy. Like there's like a level of power that the band carries when those lines kick in. I like the fact that everybody was just right there with the lighters. That was kind of fun. I don't know if there's anything for me to necessarily analyze here, because I feel like this is like the plot part of the episode. You know, this is like, oh yeah, we're dealing with like this like the primal slayer that we released when we did the spell or whatever. So that's not something necessarily that I want to focus on right now. It finds a watch.
Well, that was obvious. I know who you are. With my intellect can cripple you with my thoughts. You underestimate me. You couldn't know. You never had a watcher.
There's like some horror shit, like some horror movie shit. That sequence. Okay, the fact that he finds a watch, I'm like, what is that? I mean, could be watcher. And it's just that. He says the fact that you never had a watcher, you know, first Slayer shit. This idea of like, Giles relies on his mind. Giles relies on like his intelligence and his knowledge. Or like, at least he feels like he has a level of confidence in himself of like I know better than you, kind of thing, because he's very knowledgeable. And then the reality just fucking comes in and fucking stabs him in the face. And it's like, well, you're dead now. I feel like there's more here that I'm not fully porting together. When he sees the watch and he's like, of course. Is the watch just the fact that it's the watcher? Maybe that's just to like, because at this point you don't know who that is yet. You're still like finally piecing it together. So maybe that's just supposed to tell you like, okay, this is the first Slayer. Part 4. Buffy. Like, that's Anya, right? Why is Anya telling Buffy to wake up? That's the part that I'm like, why? And she wakes up in the Faith bed.
Faith and I just made that bed.
You lost them.
No.
This is probably the part where I'm the most confused. Because, okay, it would make sense for me to be confused here. All of the stuff that I just watched was more following the characters and how they see themselves or how they feel about themselves. But if this episode is gonna have a bunch of shit that you're not supposed to understand until later in the future, this should be it. This is foreshadowing. And if there was a scene that was gonna go into that, it should be this one, the Fate scene. I mean, the Fate room.
You lost them.
I don't know what that means. It could mean that everybody fucking dies at some point. I don't know. Everyone moves on from Buffy.
I think they need me to find them.
Or maybe it's just in reference to the episode itself. It's the idea that like, oh, all 3 of them like died or something, and then Buffy saves the day.
It's so late.
That clock's completely wrong.
Somebody told me, by the way, and this is something that I realized while editing the episode as well. It's that Tara says something's completely wrong here. Because when I first watched it, I was really into just thinking about like, oh, whoa, Fate said a number, what was it? And it was that number, it's 730. Somebody told me in a YouTube comment that like, oh, by the way, just so you have more to think about, Tara said that that number is wrong. And my reply to that was, yeah, I noticed that it was wrong. Well, like when I was editing the episode, I saw it. I saw Tara say that. The thing is that then you start playing mind games with yourself. Then you start peeling layers of like, okay, but is the fact that the number should be 730 something that I should be looking for? Or is the show displaying the number 730 something that I should be looking out for? Because those are two different things. And one of them happened and the other one didn't. Because if Tara says like, oh, the number is wrong, it's like, it doesn't matter. The show just showed me the number. Is the thing that I should be, that should be like a start of a countdown happening now, or it would happen later when that number comes back? So you can think to yourself like, oh, why did Tara say that? But then you start to question, why would the show show me that time right now at all? Why would they show me that if it didn't matter? And then you start going into this like endless loop. And then it's just like, there's no point. There's no point in asking those questions. The show is going to do what the show wants to do. We're just going to move on with our lives. Oh, the hand scar. Okay.
I'm never gonna use those.
You think you know what's to come, what you are?
Interesting. Hands are the hands, and she says, I'm never going to use that. What I'm thinking is that the hands represent just killing. You know, the fight, the slay, the hunt. And Buffy is like, oh, I'm not about that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use that. Because that's not who Buffy is. Buffy doesn't kill. I mean, she does kill, but she fights just because she feels like she has to, or just to solve problems. She doesn't go out there just with the intent to kill. She has, if anything, an intent to like talk and like maybe figure things out, spare people. Buffy's a little bit of a reckless person, but she charges in and she beats your ass, but she doesn't necessarily kill you. She will like fucking dunk you until you give up. And she's gonna talk shit the whole time while she does it, but she doesn't necessarily go for the kill. Unless you're like a very clearly evil thing that she's fighting. But this then it would be saying Buffy's like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need to go for kills. And Tara's like, you think you know?
What's to come, what you are?
I'm thinking the idea that you're a killer. Like you think that you can be something else, but you're not. Like you don't know what the life of a Slayer is like. It's also kind of true. Like we've never seen an older Slayer. We've only ever seen young Slayers. So we don't know what an older Slayer would be like. The bed has been made up now.
Be back before dawn.
Back before dawn. Okay, so two things there. One, the bed was made. And second, Tara says, be back before dawn. What if Buffy turns into a vampire? That would be nuts. Tara saying, be back before dawn, it could be like, in the future, Buffy's going to be a vampire. She's going to be in a situation where she's not going to be able to, like, be out during the daytime. So it's just going to be a nighttime only person. So maybe that's what Tara is the first Slayer is referring to when she says that. Because, like, anything that we see in this scene, I am interpreting it as, like, future knowledge. Which is kind of what it is. Because she just said, like, you don't know what's to come. You haven't even begun. And that implies future knowledge. I just realized my microphone was off for a good chunk of that. 5 minutes. Okay. So I think what I probably missed from that was the Joyce part. So yeah, so let's just do Joyce again.
Hi, honey.
Why are you living in the walls?
Oh, sweetie, no, I'm fine here. Don't worry about me.
It looks dirty.
Well, it seems that way to you. I made some lemonade, and I'm learning how to play mahjong.
It's interesting how Buffy approaches Joyce, and she is like, why are you living in the walls? And it's this thing of like, well, Joyce is kind of like, you left Joyce behind, but she's not gone because she's your mom, you know? Like, your mom is always around because she's always a part of you. So you always feels like Joyce is kind of around. She's a part of your life, and you can go and visit her and stuff, but she's not really an active part of your life. She's around, you know? So she's like living in the walls. She knows about all the stuff about me being the Slayer. She knows about all my friends and stuff, and she's even someone that someone could take hostage, but she's not an active part of my life anymore. And that's weird. It's like a weird moving from that being the case in your life to something where she's just not anymore. And Joyce immediately kind of deflects that by saying like, oh, don't worry about me, you know, like, it's okay, I have some lemonade and I'm learning how to play mahjong, which, mahjong's great, fucking love Japanese mahjong, Riichi. I Love that game. It's such a like game that nobody knows how the fuck to play, but I love it to death. It's so good. But Joyce immediately dissuading that, just like, oh, don't worry about me, it's okay. And then she says,
Find your friends.
yeah, it's the idea of like, you go and do your stuff, you know? Which is such a mom thing to say whenever they don't want you to worry about them. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm having fun, you know? I'm doing good stuff. You go and do your stuff, you know? Just don't worry about me.
I really don't think you should live in there.
Well, you could probably break through the wall.
I like that because what you see there is that so Buffy says like, well, you shouldn't live there. Maybe my mom shouldn't be sidelined as hard as she is. Maybe she should be a more active part of my life. She should hang around and walk around with us. And Joyce says like, well, maybe you could punch through the wall. It's the idea of like, oh, you could, there is like a barrier between us and you could make an effort to break that barrier and approach me and or let me approach you. But as she says that, Buffy is already distracted with something else, with her duty or whatever. So before Joyce even says that, Buffy's like already just like moved on from Joyce and sidelined her again, which is interesting. I like that.
How did the debriefing go?
I told you not to worry about that.
I told you not to worry about that. Okay, that's like a little bit controlling.
It went great. They made me Surgeon General.
Surgeon instead of sergeant.
World domination? Is that a good?
Baby, we're the government. It's what we do.
So what this I think might be is, I mean, Adam's gonna say it in a second.
She's uncomfortable with certain concepts. Aggression is a natural human tendency, though you and me come by it another way.
Like that. They're talking about aggression, and it's the idea of like Buffy maybe sees Riley as someone who, I mean, he is part of this like government agency and stuff, and that has been a huge thing about Riley as a character and him evolving. It's the idea of like him being part of the like US Army and all this secret ops shit, and like how he has been shaped by that. And Buffy sees aggression as something it's something that makes her uncomfortable. And this is interesting because we're starting to explore this idea that Buffy feels like she's incredibly strong because she's a superhero for all intents and purposes, and she feels the uncomfortableness of what it is like to have so much power, and she doesn't like the idea of exerting that much power. She doesn't like it conceptually, so she doesn't like it when other people do it as well, but she sees it that way because she also sees herself that way. The idea that somebody that shouldn't exert so much power over others, aggression is just, when Buffy is aggressive, Buffy kills. Buffy has the ability to kill. So she's never aggressive unless she goes into I have to slay vampires mode. If Buffy were ever to be aggressive against just a normal person, she would just fucking kill them. She would punch them so hard they would die instantly. That's what I'm thinking. So Buffy's uncomfortable with the idea of aggression because she doesn't feel like she herself can exert that.
We're not demons.
Is that a fact?
Or she says we're not demons, and it might be her just feeling like she's grasping onto her humanity, and her humanity is all this like the social norms of like being polite and being, not that Buffy is polite, but just being someone who abides by this like morals and rules, and that is what makes you human. And Buffy's maybe clinging on to that because if she didn't, then she wouldn't be any different from a demon. However, Riley is, as part of the government, is an aggressor just by being part of an institution like that.
This could be trouble. We better make a fort. I'll get some pillows.
Is the idea maybe just that the institution is just so nonchalant about something so fucked up? Making a pillow fort, maybe that's the institution is just doesn't do anything that's important.
I have weapons.
I like that. I like that specific thing that is such a dream thing of like wanting to say something but you are not able to. You want to scream something but it just barely comes out. We have mud. Again, that this might be the idea of Buffy being a soldier. Like this is what a soldier would do. So give it into the fight.
That's the way you want it.
Being a killer.
Guess you're on your own.
Oh, being abandoned by Riley. Him being like, okay, killer, you're on your own. It's the idea that if Buffy were to give in to the killing, then she would be abandoned by those around her because she would just be a beast. God, I can't wait for this episode to be over so I can fucking stop. I've been watching this one episode for over 3 hours. God, I'm such a piece of shit right now. I don't know if this is good or bad content, by the way. I feel like I should apologize.
Never gonna find them here.
Of course not. That's the reason you came. Someone has to speak for her.
Let her speak for herself. That's what's done in polite circles.
It's actually kind of fitting that I said politeness earlier, and I was like, Buffy's not polite. But then she brings up politeness here as like a construct that you should follow, that a person follows. But the First Slayer doesn't do that, because the First Slayer is a representation of the kill, you know? The kill does not care about that.
I am not alone.
The Slayer does not walk in this world.
I walk. I talk. I shop. I sneeze.
Me too, girl.
No friends, just to kill. We are alone.
Alright, fucking stop everything. Hello, I come from the future. The far off future. I'm recording this like, I don't fucking know, like a month after I recorded that originally, or a couple weeks later. I am editing this for YouTube, and that kind of weirdly counts as like a third rewatch, so like a fourth watch altogether of this goddamn episode. And this time, I'm looking at the fucking Cheeseman. Earlier I said, fuck the Cheeseman, I don't give a fuck, because like there's nothing there. But now, but later, as I watched through it, and you can see it in the video, I started thinking about it more and more. And now, the fourth time I am looking at it, and honestly, this is something I wanted to do when I was watching it for this rewatch originally a couple weeks ago, but you can kind of tell that by the time I got here, I was kind of low on gas. And I have notes. I have goddamn notes here. So, okay, look at them. I just rewatched those little zines and I wrote them down, and I was like, because even you can see it in the original rewatch where I talk for like 3 hours. The video you're watching right now, I said maybe cheese represents something else. And if it's something that you can connect it through all of them, and then it would make sense. Following that thought process, which I was too tired to do so the first time, well, the third time, I guess, the couple weeks ago, I'm doing it now. So I wrote down every single one of these. And here's the thing. Oh God, whenever I like move the text thing, it like breaks on OBS. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so the thing about this is that, all right, can you see when I highlight something? Yeah, you can actually. You can see my mouse and everything. That's cool. Okay, so whenever he runs into Willow, he says, I made a little space for the cheese slices. Unhinged, the second time when Xander's in the basement, he just turns and runs into him, and it says, these will not protect you, as he shows the cheese on a plate. When he said I made a little space for the cheese slices, he shows like cheese on like a table below him. Giles, he's with Spike in like the dungeon thing where Spike lives after running from his lover and Buffy, and then in the same scene, Giles' lover. God, people in Patreon told me her name. I forgot about it. I'm sorry. She's not a character that's very prominent, and that's actually intentional. She is in the background, and she looks incredibly distressed. And then Giles just kind of ignores her, and then he keeps going, and he says sees the cheeseman, and the cheeseman says, "I wear the cheese. It does not wear me." And he has cheese slices on his head. And then the final time you see him is when Buffy is about to confront the First Slayer, and the First Slayer exclaims, "We are alone!" And then the Cheeseman just kind of like goes on screen, right into the screen, and dangles the cheeses. And then Buffy is like, okay, that's it, I'm waking up. And that's like a funny comedy beat. It's like, at that point, you, the viewer, think to yourself, what the fuck is this Cheeseman is so goddamn funny? And then Buffy herself kind of acknowledging that sentiment in the viewer is like, okay, this is ridiculous, let's just fucking fight. That is what that is meant to be. But is there a layer deeper to that? And I think there is. I think that if we were to replace the word cheese with in every single one of these, it would actually make sense. What would be the word, you say? Well, the only time where the Cheeseman shows up and it is not something it is not something that where he acknowledges anything, or at least it doesn't look like it. It's the final one when he shows up when the first layer says, "We are alone." Let's grab this word. Let's do that. And we're actually not going to use the word alone, but we're going to use the different word that is on the same word root, which is we're going to use loneliness. So I made a little space for the loneliness. That is with Willow. If we follow that, I made a little space for it. That actually does kind of make sense. I was thinking that it wouldn't fucking make any goddamn sense because I was looking at it and I was like, that sounds dumb. But then I thought about it and I was like, no, that makes sense. Willow made a small space for herself where she can be herself. That space is Tara. Whenever she goes and hangs out with Tara, that is Willow's little safe space. And she doesn't get to be alone. Because like, that's the thing about her relationship is that she's not alone whenever she's in with Tara, when they're together in a relationship. You know, they're in a relationship. You make that in order to not be alone. Like, that is kind of the purpose of a relationship, is to not be alone. There are many things that come with a relationship, but I would say that's probably the biggest one, is that you are no longer alone. You get to be with someone, and you get to enjoy life together. And that's the thing about a relationship. She made a little space for it, which is the Tara space. She goes and hangs out with Tara, completely removed from everyone else. That is what Willow did this entire goddamn season, doing spells with Tara alone. And that is her own secluded space that she built for herself. And this is something that was actually pointed out many times throughout the season, is the fact that Willow is making a space that is separated from everyone else just for herself and Tara. That is the little space for the cheese slices. That is to say, Tara. So she doesn't have to be alone. The next one. These will not protect you. Well, loneliness will not protect you. This one I think makes the most amount of sense with Sander. That's the thing about Sander, is that Sander is an incredibly like emotional guy, but at the same time he takes a step back and doesn't allow anyone to get in to actually share his life with. The only person he kind of allows in is Anya, and that's not even like completely in. Anya feels like Sander keeps her at a weird arm's length. It's like, oh yeah, they bang all the time, but like Sander is very insecure about a lot of things. You just saw me talk about it for like 40 minutes in this same video. There's a lot about Sander that he doesn't talk to people with. He doesn't actually acknowledge it himself, honestly. So the thing about Sander is that he doesn't actually get to be with people on a more intimate sense. He doesn't share those parts of himself because they make him feel vulnerable. They make him feel like he's a failure, and he just doesn't want to he doesn't want to open himself up to other people. So he kind of isolates. Even if he's hanging around people, he's doing so in a manner that is not actually really very productive. Even when he is literally in the same bed as Anya after having sex or whatever, he doesn't feel like he's actually letting Anya in. So Sander is actually someone who's alone. Sander is actually a character who feels very lonely, even though like maybe he is with people. He doesn't actually let those people in. Sander actually isolates. And Sander isolates because of fear. Sander isolates because it makes him feel vulnerable. It makes him feel weak. It makes him feel a lot of the things that on one end, toxic masculinity tells him that that's something that's wrong. On the other end, it just makes him feel like shit because of his upbringing and the people that raised them. So a part of Sander doesn't want to be rejected because no one wants to. But Sander specifically really wants people to like him because he wants to have that connection. But at the same time, he doesn't want to be pitied because society tells him that a man doesn't get to be pitied. A man gets to be the one that is at the forefront, and he just takes things. So he doesn't want to feel impotent, but at the same time, he desperately wants to have that connection with someone. But you can't have that connection like that without actually giving a part of yourself for other people to see, which makes him feel weak. So the solution is that he isolates. Sander is a lonely person because he himself self-isolates. And the Cheeseman is right. Loneliness will not protect you. Right? Like he defaults to loneliness because if he were to open himself up to people, it would make him feel bad. It would make him feel weak. It would make him feel sad. And the cheese man is like, nope, that's not true. It will not help you. It will not protect you. You think this is the answer. It is not. The answer that you need is that you need to actually open up to people, because that is the only way you'll actually attain happiness. Because if you want to be happy, but at the same time you close yourself off from the world and you want to have that connection, but you don't know the way to go around it, and you don't actually put in the effort in order to participate in a more vulnerable sense, then I'm sorry, you're never going to connect with people in an intimate sense. Moving on to Giles. I wear the loneliness. It does not wear me. This one I also thought maybe didn't make any goddamn sense, but then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I think we're onto something. If we're going to talk about loneliness with Giles, what did we see in Giles' dream? Giles' dream, he actively ignores, doesn't fully ignore Buffy, but he kind of dismisses Buffy. Like, Buffy is very excited and telling Giles, like, oh, look, I did this, I did it right. And Giles he kind of shrugged it off and he was like, what, you want me to give you a reward or something like that? Like, he was very dismissive. And even harder goes for Giles' partner. She didn't really get to say a lot or do a lot in that dream. And then at the during that dungeon sequence with Spike, where Giles is like very curious about what's going on with Spike and what is it that he's supposed to do in solving a mystery, in the background you just see her, Giles' lover, just kind of very distressed, kind of like, I don't know, chained, like. And again, that scene is kind of difficult to see. She's in the background, it's dark, it's low quality, I have no fucking clue what she was holding, but it was one of those situations where I'm thinking, okay, what we're supposed to be seeing here is that he's ignoring someone that is important in his life because he's too focused on like the task or something. So I wear the loneliness, it does not wear me. What that means to me is that Giles chooses to be alone. And that's the problem. And it's something similar to like what we just said about Xander, is that Xander chooses to be alone because it makes him feel weak and pathetic if he were to not. If he were to actually open up to people, so he chooses loneliness. With Giles, it's different in the sense that he actually wants to be alone. And maybe it's because of guilt. Maybe it's coming from a place of guilt, because that is something that we see with Giles. It was even addressed in the same dream. Willow just looks at him and tells him, like, do you know this is your fault? And it's like, okay. Like, guilt has always been a big part of Giles' character, from all the way when we learn about him being like a kind of a rebel, and he accidentally like killed his friend by summoning a demon or something. Like, Giles has always been a guilt based character. So I wear the loneliness, it does not wear me. Giles, ever since we learned that, we have pierced together that Giles is a person who he focuses on the task and the job and what he feels like he has to do. This like morality, but at the same time, this sense of duty mostly. And the reason why he focuses on that so hard is because it's the only way he can like cope with himself. It's the only way that he can feel like he himself is a good person, is a decent person. Like, if you were to hate yourself because of mistakes you made in the past, it's difficult to live with that. And Giles' solution, and a lot of people who have this problem in real life, they have to have some kind of ground that they can stand on. They have to lean on something. Giles leaned on a sense of duty. So he's like, I'm going to perform my duty. I'm going to be a great watcher. I'm going to make sure that Buffy does this and this and that. Because if I do that, then that means that I am not a horrible person that should just be dead. I am someone that is actually doing something good. The entire dream sequence of Giles is him getting distracted by what he feels like he has to do. Spike shows up and he's like, oh, Spike, I gotta go talk to him, because Spike is a character that actually is important into a lot of these storylines. So Spike is actually like an important vampire that I have to know what's going on so I can fix whatever problem arises when Spike is around. Completely ignoring his date, completely ignoring Buffy. It's just, we're focusing on the task. Here's the thing. That's also loneliness. Giles defaults to being alone and focusing on solving problems and reading books and solving the mystery. This man lives alone in his house and he has nothing. He doesn't have a job. He just lives alone in his house. I have no clue how he keeps himself fed. He's just alone in his house, and whenever any like teenager out of the like 4 teenagers we know knocks on his door, is like, Giles, we have problems, and he's immediately available. It's like, oh yeah, okay, what is the problem? But like as a grown adult, wouldn't it be so much easier if he just moved in with his lover, or let his lover move in with him, or just literally leave and do anything with his life, find a job? But he doesn't, and we never actually address why he didn't. We could just say like, oh well, he's a fuck up, haha. But Giles is a very capable person. I think it's more just the fact that he chooses to be alone. He chooses to live this life because he feels like it's the best life he could lead in order to be a good I don't know even what to call him because he's not a watcher anymore. A general paranormal helper. But whenever any problem happens for any of these episodes, Giles is around and he can help. And the reason why is because he chooses to not have a life in order to do that. He chooses loneliness. He forsakes relationships because he feels like the duty is more important. He actually wears his loneliness. It is an active choice of him. It does not wear me. Like, and that's the second part. That's the second part that's important. That is actually different from like Sander. Sander, I would say that Sander, loneliness wears Sander. In Sander's case, loneliness is kind of a defense mechanism. With Giles, is something that he actively chooses. And it's something with Sander, he does choose loneliness, but I don't even know if he's aware of the fact that he's doing something like that. With Giles, I feel like maybe he knows what he's doing, and he just chooses to do that because he's like, my job is more important than my loneliness, how I feel. If I feel lonely, if I feel like I wish I had a better relationship, whatever, who gives a shit about me, right? I gotta save the world. So he wears his loneliness actively, active choice. It does not wear him. With Sander, loneliness kind of does wear him because Sander doesn't really have any control over how he feels, and that's just kind of the result of it. But with Giles, I feel like that is an active choice on his part. So yeah, that's 3 out of 3 that makes sense. And now the final one, we are alone. I think this doesn't necessarily really mean much about Buffy. This is just the answer. This is the solution to the puzzle. This is what gave me everything for all 3 of these that I just talked about. I think this makes sense. The 4th one is just the actual answer to the puzzle, and then it's up to you to do the work for the first 3. Now that you have the keyword alone, you can retroactively apply it to all 3 of them, and it actually does kind of make sense. So that's my analysis on the Cheeseman. Thank you for joining my TED Talk. I don't know if any of that made any goddamn sense. I maybe overcooked. Maybe I cooked too hard. None of that makes any goddamn sense. I'm stupid. However, who's dumber? Me for saying all of that, or you for listening to me, a dumbass? Anyway, I just said words. That's kind of how I feel about this entire channel, really. I just say words sometimes, and I don't know why anyone listens. God damn it, this alone was 20 minutes. What the fuck am I doing? Back to the original recording. Who said enough? That's a good question. No fucking clue who that is. I know, something like Anya or something.
Are you quite finished?
So that moment, I have no fucking clue what that is. Right? Like, she just stabs her a bunch, and then Buffy's like, I'm fine. Doesn't matter. And I'm not sure if it should matter or not, but you know, that's what happens. I got nothing. Like, I remember when I was watching that the first time, I was like, oh my god, she just killed Buffy, and Buffy thinks that it's fine, it's just a dream, but it actually did happen. That's what I was thinking. And at the end, when Buffy said like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I was like, oh, the reveal is gonna be that she goes to the bathroom and she opens her like shirt or something, and it's just a bunch of wounds.
You're not the source of me.
Buffy saying like, you're not the source of me, like you're not the source of my power. It's not just to kill. I am not fueled by the aggression, the animalistic desire to just go and kill. I am fueled by my friends. Those are my source of power. Because we just beat the big bad with the power of friendship. Buffy's just holding on to her humanity code that she built just by being a human, just following this set of guides and protocols and morals. But the show seems to be telling her that you can't do that. As the Slayer, you're not that. Like, we're elevating the Slayer from like superhero into something more like the physical manifestation of death in this world, which is interesting. Okay, we fucking made it. We did it. I can't fucking believe it. I've been recording for 3 hours 12 minutes.
Xander?
Yes, what choice?
Him being uncomfortable
Buffy's
by
mom.
choice.
You alright?
Yeah. I think I might jump in the shower.
Oh, that's something interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is interesting. Sanders just went through that moment of like, yeah, I crave that affection, and I even fantasized that like Buffy's mom could give that to me. And then immediately goes to Giles asking Buffy if Buffy is okay, and only Buffy. And when he does that, Sander looks at him, and he has this expression of,
I think I might jump in the shower.
yeah, I like that. Like, he reacts, and this expression is such a like, if you heard me talk about Sander for this past like whatever amount of time I spent talking about Sander wanting for people to actually give a shit about him is his entire character. And just seeing Giles ask Buffy, "Hey Buffy, are you okay?" and not give that same treatment to Sander it really hits them. And I feel like you can see that in this like incredibly tiny interaction.
You alright?
Yeah. I think I might jump in the shower.
That wouldn't have been the focus of the shot if it weren't for that fact that that's what it is.
At least you all didn't dream about that guy with the cheese.
The guy with the cheese being the connecting thread between all of them.
You haven't even begun.
That's just foreshadowing for the future, I think. So that was Restless. We just rewatched Restless again. Spent 3 hours, 16 minutes of me just being here. I feel like that was really good, actually. Like, the first time I watched Restless, I was like, there was too much for me to keep up. Now, taking 15 minutes per line to just pause and talk about it and analyze it and read Wikipedia articles and shit, I feel like that was pretty good. I actually feel like I accomplished something. I feel good about that. I feel like the parts that I didn't understand or I didn't have anything to say that made any sense were the parts that it's like, oh, I'm going to understand that in the future. But when it comes to like character analysis, I felt like I had something. Not necessarily something that was correct, but something. And I feel good about that. I really like this episode. Honestly, it's one of my favorite episodes of the entire fucking show. It's so fucking good. Because I get to do this. Oh my fucking god. Now, the misery of editing this goddamn video. What the fuck am I going to do with it? It is 2 a.m. I'm hungry as fuck. I have to learn how to play bass. I just took my vitamins. It would be really weird if I cut the part where I took my vitamins from the video. I'm gonna leave it on if I edited it out. Oh my god. I'm gonna go now. I'm so tired. I don't know what else I can say about this episode. I feel like I said everything that I could have possibly said about it. I'm just tired now. Thank you for watching this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna post this on YouTube or not, but I guess maybe, I don't know. Thank you for watching this. If you support me on Patreon, thank you for supporting me on Patreon. It helps a lot. I'm right now taking a little bit of a break between seasons 4 and 5 because I'm doing Doctor Who, but I also really want to do this, and I'm going to do the Buffy cast next. So I am going to be shortly making a post where I'm going to ask people for questions and things that you want me to talk about season 4 of Buffy and season 1 of Angel. So I'm going to be doing that. Keep an eye out for that. And then we'll move into season 5 whenever I do that, and also I'm finishing Doctor Who. So after the Buffy cast and after this, I guess, because I didn't expect this to be a fucking 3-hour clusterfuck of insanity, but that's what it ended up being. So I'm gonna have to put in time and effort for this one as well. So whenever I do that, and then I do the Buffy cast, then I'm gonna move into season 5. So you're gonna have to wait a little bit for it, and I'm sorry about that, but yeah, I hope that at least this video was enjoyable for you. And then I'm going to move on to the Buffy cast soon. So yeah, I'm going to ask questions very shortly. And I should be recording it very shortly as well. Because I really want to start Buffy season 5 as soon as I can. So yeah, I feel like I'm completely drained. mentally, emotionally, or like physically drained, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys next time. Bye.